Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you back to Ohio Exopolitics. I'm your host, Mark Snyder. Our guest is Alexander McCaig. We're going to talk about the Billy Meier case today, as we do every other weekend. I like the hat.
Thank you. I had it custom made.
Did you really?
Yeah, and when you were talking about how jarring the color white could be, I said, "This is perfect. This is exactly what I want to wear."
And it's got something yellow on it there.
Yeah, it's the symbol for Falon.
Are you still studying that?
Oh yeah. That's like asking me if I'm done learning life lessons.
So you're doing the Falon,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing the Goblet of Truth with another group?
That's correct.
And then you got this.
Yeah, and then I got this with you, Mark. Mark, you sent me that email, and you're like, I want to talk about some stuff today. The amount of books I have here in front of me and material I've gone through, I'm like, this is going to be one hell of an episode if this is what Mark wants to go through.
Yeah, we can go through some new stuff. I've got tons of stuff too, so we'll just see how it all ends or starts. We
know how it ends. It ends in 2 hours.
What? So when is your study for the goblet? What time and day?
So that's done on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard.
Good.
Yeah, so that's been pretty good. And
Wednesday, you said?
Yeah,
Wednesday?
Mondays and Wednesdays. There are other readings for other books that Skype groups do at that time, but for the Discord server, which I run, you can be happy to join.
A Discord server is a little unusual.
It's a little like it's definitely
to send
unusual.
Somebody a direct message, you have to do weird. I don't know. It was non-intuitive for me.
Yeah, it's the you have to add them as a friend first, right? Because if you just spam messaging people, nobody wants that. They're a little bit more respecting of privacy over here, so there's a couple more gated things.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's definitely what it is.
Now, you were getting my messages, right?
Oh, most definitely, Mark.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure there.
Yeah.
And you have some bad weather right now, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad. I would just say that it's, nature doing its thing, right? It's not blue skies and sun, but I'll be back in the mid-60s and sun the next, day and a half.
We got that now, which I really appreciated.
Yeah.
It seems like the center of the country is getting hit by a storm or something.
No, that's good. Yeah, it needs it. There's a lot of farmland out here, right? The more moisture, the better.
We had hail and a tornado a couple days ago, so I'm glad that's over. I mean, something big was hitting the roof. That's all I can say. Crazy. So I got all this stuff that I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to give you the floor since you brought some.
Well, what I did is I brought some of the books with me, right? So first of all, I would be happy to discuss the Pope. Okay, I'd love to discuss humility. I'd love to have some conversations here about the way to live, pages 104 through 110, and then beyond that, some elements of Arhat Athrsada. Does that work, Mark?
Yeah. That sounds like the stuff I sent you.
Now it would be out of character for us if you didn't start with one of your
Bible.
Yeah, correct. My favorite book, right? So if we didn't start with that, we'd be doing the wrong thing. So why don't you set the tone with that, Mark, and then we can open it up.
All right. Ephesians 4:2. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Great verse.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's
Really
wonderful.
nice.
That's one of those things that comes out of the Bible that's actually got some wisdom in it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some wisdom. Sometimes it's in the simple stuff that you find the wisdom. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. No,
it's kind of simply profound,
Well, if it's not simple, that means it's not well understood, and then other people aren't going to receive it as well either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, it talked about the word humble, correct?
Yeah.
Humble's an interesting word. Do you know where that comes from? Its root? No pun intended?
No.
Okay. Humble, right, comes from humus. Do you know what humus is?
No, but this is interesting.
Yeah, humus is almost that kind of foamy earth material that you find in really rich forest beds.
Okay. That's That's fascinating.
Right. So now, typically in the normal stance, right? After the Roman Catholic Church gets their death grip on specific words and starts to use them however they want to dictate it, they had changed the word humble to this idea that you are lesser than something else, right? Whether it be God or another person, right, or the Pope himself. Like, they want you to be humble. Just remember that you're not better than other human beings, but you are still less.
So they made it bad.
Yeah, they changed the context of it. Absolutely. Now, if you think about the real root of it, humus it's a function of nature. It's a richness. It's a grounding. It's an equalization, right? It's something which all springs up from. So when you talk about having humility, it's really about understanding the deep nature you have that you also share with somebody else. Now, for instance, let's take it as metaphor. Say, for instance, you're a tree, Mark, and there's another tree in the woods. I'm the other tree. And I'm like, hey, Mark, and I'm like swinging my branches in the wind. You and I are connected by this humus layer, right? This stuff that's on the ground. And we can communicate. We can transact. We can share nutrients back and forth through these things, right? In the mycorrhiza and the fungi. But they all live in this area. But the root of it, being humble, is this idea that we all come from this equal natural base. And it's not really about bowing down and prostrating to some god or something else that is apparently above you, or someone tells you that they're greater than you. It's really an understanding of the natural things that allow you to exist. And when you focus on that, you remove the idea of hierarchy altogether.
Yeah.
You feeling that?
I had heard, I don't know where I heard this, it was somewhere in the Meier teachings, that if you plant trees, they should be 20 feet apart.
Yeah. So there's some tree techniques. I'm not an Austrian logger by any means, but I have done my research on things like the Faustin ratio and other elements of logging in those regions. Now, when you go to plant a tree, right, there's a certain amount of meterage you want to put away. Now, people who are good at planting trees to develop land understand that, okay, there's a minimum distance you want to plant at so that the trees don't hurt themselves. Others have a technique to say, okay, I understand that maybe it's 20 feet or it's 8 feet, okay? The element here is that they'll actually plant a subtree in the center that they know is going to die so that it can fall and then help,
really
build up a sort of the ground flora and the rest of the mushroom kingdom, so it can live off of it. So they know that one tree will get sacrificed in between the two that are there. Wow. So that's also another technique that is used. But yes, you're right. In the material, they do talk about planting trees at a specific distance so that they're most viable.
I thought it was 20 feet, and we did that. We did that with the main part of the yard, and those trees got so huge. I mean, they're just ginormous. Now, I have one section of the yard that, I don't know, it's really hard. The soil is hard, and it's either too wet or it's just hard as a rock. So I don't know what's going on there, but that's a different. But I've always thought, wow, that seemed to work.
Oh, of course it works. I mean, if you think about it, they've been planting trees forever. I mean, trees are not a terribly difficult thing to study. They've been around forever, right? They're, pretty rare in some respects. They're probably more rare than diamonds, I would say, just given what's required for a tree to grow, given the atmosphere and those other things.
You think so, really?
I don't know. I feel like minerals, like hard minerals, like diamonds and stuff like that, can be found plentiful across the cosmos.
Across the solar system.
Yeah, correct. But like a tree is probably a pretty rare thing, right? So we should probably stop cutting them down. Now, for every tree that you do cut down, right, a good like coniferous or whatever the other type of tree is, the name's escaping me. I have a cold, so I'm trying to adjust. When you cut a tree down, it actually stops the clean supply of oxygen to 12 full-grown human beings. So if you cut down a full-grown tree, you're cutting off the clean supply of oxygen to 12 human beings.
Man, I should take a note of that. That is the most profound thing I've heard in a long time.
So, Mark, I suck a lot of wind all day, and so when we're cutting those trees down, it's going to make it a lot more difficult on me.
Did you say 12?
12 people.
Oh, my Lord. We're killing ourselves, and we don't know it.
Yeah, I had been fortunate enough to, we're definitely, I think we do know, I think we're just ignoring it. I had been fortunate enough to speak with a world-renowned expert, Suzanne Simard. She wrote a book on it's called The Mother Tree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was really cool to learn about how like these major, what I would say the most elder trees within a group of very rich forest area. There's one tree that does the massive communication. And if you take that one tree down, the rest of them are going to be in a lot of trouble, right? It may hurt them in terms of nutrient development. But not only do we have wisdom in our elders, but the same thing happens for trees too. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's unbelievably.
And you've also noticed, here's one more fact about trees, because I really like trees. Over time, you find that because of the way we have been planting trees after we've clear cut them in forestry, which is a horrible way to actually harvest lumber, we found that the actual quality of the wood has become weaker over time. The same tree is growing, but the actual, the fibers, the strength in those fibers actually have become weaker. Because
of the other
right. It's the way we have been harvesting, our inorganic approaches to it, the water cycles that they live in on mountainsides, like all of those things in that nature affect actually the wood quality itself. Now, if you go back a little bit further, let's do a little bit more history here. Do you remember how most of our water was transmitted back and forth here with early piping in the U.S.?
No, not really.
Wood pipes.
Wood?
Yeah, correct.
That seems healthier.
No, it's much, much healthier. And there was a nice ability, a nice permeable barrier between the wood in some respects to allow nutrients to come in and allow the water to breathe as it goes through.
Oh, wow.
And in wood itself, after it sits, for a long time, like say in a closed area, it becomes stronger. So it can actually, in some respects, those wood pipes, the very old ones that are still around, are probably stronger than concrete in most respects.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So where my house is now was a field with a lot of grass in it.
Okay.
So now I've got, I think, 35 trees.
That's awesome. Lot. Good for you.
Yeah. So that helped a lot of people. They didn't know it.
No, they didn't know it. But
they didn't know.
Everything's interlinked, right? It's all in this atmosphere. So as long as those things are scrubbing, you're helping people breathe. So you're doing the right thing, Mark.
That's great. That's great.
No, it's really
so
good.
Humble means humus.
Humus. And not hummus is a double M, right? That's the stuff that you'd eat.
Yeah. But humus?
Yeah. Humus, it's a layer within the forest itself.
It's a layer of really rich soil.
Oh, it's wonderful. And if you ever get your hands on it, you'll never forget it, Mark. You should go find a national forest to go in and look for this. You're in Ohio. You should be able to find it.
I got one across the street. It's not national. It's a state.
Okay.
But I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah, you'll find it.
So being humble does not mean feeling worried or concerned.
No, that definition is not correct.
It doesn't mean to have a low estimate of yourself either, does it?
No, all those definitions are incorrect. That's after the church twisted it.
Wow.
You'll see that the Latin Vulgate, or whatever the stupid definition is for it, has actually retuned itself. I think it was after the 14th century. You're asking a lot of my brain right now, but let me look. All right. Very good. And humble. Oh, 13th century. My mistake, Mark. I was off by 100 years. Pretty good, though. But does that make me humble? Acting like that? Lowly in kind, state, condition, or amount. Also persons of low birth or rank. That is the most anti-creational thing I've ever heard right there.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
It was. From late 14th century, that's when it changed. Very good.
That reminds me, people don't realize it, but the letter J really didn't appear until something like the 15th century.
Awesome.
So all the Bible where it mentions Jesus, he wasn't really called Jesus because there was no letter J. Jerusalem wasn't Jerusalem.
What was
John, it was, however you say it without a J.
Was it more of an I?
Jerusalem, something like that.
Yeah, that's correct.
John wasn't John. It was I-H or I-O-H-N. James wasn't James. It was an I. Usually they had an I before the J came along, and then the J came along. But, it's shocking to me that people would change, they call him Christ, but then they change his name. Isn't that very odd? I mean, strange.
It doesn't surprise me. Actors change their name all the time. Authors have pen names, but the church is like, this is a good one. Let's use this one.
They like it better, I guess.
They like it better. They like this has marketing appeal. This thing has legs. That's what they were saying while they were all sitting around in their suits smoking cigarettes.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. So Billy states on this level, there is no difference between emperors, kings, managers, bosses, workers, beggars. Basically, a human being is firstly a human being who wants to and must be treated this way and be respected.
Yep.
So it's not that we should be crawling around humble on the floor while we're getting beaten by the Pope or somebody.
Or his Jesuit army.
Yeah,
poking me with their spears.
Exactly.
The element of this is important. It does feel interesting in some respects when you meet maybe like a dignitary or someone who's had a pretty substantial professional career, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go to meet with these people, they were children once. They're humans now. They specialize in something. And people lift them up naturally through their thoughts to say that person is just, they're greater than me. I should bow down to them. There's so much to learn from them. What they don't do is they don't greet them on a human-to-human level, right? And that's, for me, like, I deal a lot with, the corporate sphere, okay? And that whole ideology within the corporate world is also something that I fundamentally don't align with. So when you have a conversation with me, I don't care if you're the CEO or you're the person that cleans the bathroom, right?
Right.
I'm going to treat you exactly as I would treat myself. Both ways.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I wonder what's going on with corporate America sometimes. Have you heard about Boeing? What's going on with Boeing?
Yeah, they're not putting the planes together great. I mean, but be thankful.
The wheels are falling off. The doors are falling off. The engines are catching on fire.
Yeah. Well, Mark, just flying an older plane.
It'll be better.
Yeah, and people don't forget, we must be clear here. When that plane leaves, okay, it doesn't just take off immediately, right? So when an airline assumes ownership or lease over the new airline, the new airliner, they have their own teams of aircraft mechanics that go over it to start.
Yeah.
And so now there's also another secondary element. Yes, some things slip through, and if it's really poor manufacturing to start, just wait for it'll fix itself. Now that's already in the news, they'll fix it immediately. The FAA does not want fatalities with aircraft travel. That's the last thing they need.
Right. So hopefully it'll take care of itself.
Do you remember the old saying, Mark? Laws are written in blood.
Laws are written in blood.
Yeah, we typically don't figure it out right out of the gate, and people have to get hurt or something happens before we change our policy to actually get smart and act better, right, in the best interest of human beings.
Wow. Have you ever heard Billy talk about what he calls the secret sciences?
Yeah, so what you're talking about is an understanding of spirit science is how I would describe it. Okay. Studying chi, the bioelectric energy in the body, how you can affect, consciousness and its effect on material objects. You're right. So I'm talking about the immaterial, energetic sense of consciousness, focused, using the power of the spirit block to manipulate things here. That is like these secret sciences. And it's only become a secret because people who knew about it said, we don't need to teach everybody about this. We don't need people feeling empowered. We need to keep them weak. We want them to be humble towards us. We want them to worship us. They didn't want to pass those things off. So when Edward or Billy is speaking about the elements of secret sciences, it's the study of what can happen when you can concentrate the energy of the spirit and understand that life, and I shared with this before about 2 weeks ago, Mark, life is but an idea, okay? And once you start to understand that and you focus that idea with enough might of your thoughts, you can do pretty incredible things that have otherwise been quite secret to society for a long time.
So, are you saying that what he's teaching in the book Might of Thoughts and The Way to Live and all that is part of the secret science?
I would say it's a foundational piece. And then when you get to specialties in it, that's when you get into advanced types of Tai Chi, Qigong. That's when you get into hand healing. That's when you get into telepathy, telekinesis, telenautic powers, teleportation. All of those different things are what I would say the specialties that can be used outside of, channeling, if people get around to that point, or, whatever. That's what he's talking about. But there are fundamentals that have to be understood first at a very core level before people should even be focusing on those specialties.
So there's very, very few people that are really doing the specialties in the secret science.
I would say there's got to be.
Maybe, do you think that people like the Pope and the Jesuits know how to do this?
I think they know of it. I am unsure if they know of how to practice or use it appropriately. Now, if you really want to unlock the power of the spirit, okay, for you in your physical realm, you have to be loving. You can't be illogical. The Pope and everything he does is illogical.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so how would he have the ability to do these things to their maximum, to really specialize in it, if he lives completely contrary to nature itself and the true development of humankind? Wouldn't happen.
I am coming to the conclusion that literal striving is so important. I mean, that is almost the nutshell of the whole teaching, that striving, man, is just completely where it's at. And there are negatives associated with the striving, super hard, right?
Yeah.
There are some negatives there, but if you pursue the striving, that's where your happiness comes from.
Yeah, you'll find it. You'll find happiness in your knowledge and wisdom accumulation, because you become more knowledgeable and wise. You also will become more loving. These things feed into one another. They're not separate, right? So by striving, by pushing yourself forward, here's a simple question for you, Mark. I'm sick right now, so I'll ask this to you. This is the top of my mind for me. When you are sick, what do you want?
You want relief.
Yeah, you want to feel better, right? So what are you going to do? Yeah. You are striving to feel better. You are pushing.
Which might mean sleeping.
Which might mean sleeping. That's fine. You can still strive in your sleep. There's a lot that the subconscious is teaching you through the dream state if you record it.
Wow. It's interesting. We strive in the death.
No, we have to strive in the death. You're striving towards death right now.
Well, I mean, when you are dead and you're on the other side, you're still striving.
You're not dead, Mark. We must be clear about this.
That's what he calls it.
No. The body is deceased.
Yes.
But your energy is not dead, never dies.
The spirit form.
Right. So this is very specific, and it's important to understand that. You don't die. The body becomes deceased, and then the energy moves on.
That's a good way to put it, because it keeps you focused on the fact that the whole idea of dying is not correct.
No, of course it's not correct. It's like going to bed. You've probably done it a couple 100,000 times, Mark. You've probably done it a million times, Right. Mark, every time you go to bed, you die a little bit. What's so scary about doing it at the end of your days? You've been practicing it for X amount of years.
Well, what is interesting is what you were saying the other day about, flying around in airplanes and stuff.
Oh, you're talking about your mass expanding with speed.
Yes. And that shortens your lifespan. Right?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Gosh,
How could it not?
Well, I know people that fly all over all the time, like, 3 or 4 times a week. They're flying somewhere, and that's terrible for you.
Of course, it's
bad. But they don't know it though.
But we must be clear, it is only bad because we don't have the proper technology to inhibit the expansion of mass on objects that are moving very quickly. Once we solve that, you can travel all you want, as fast as you like.
It's the cells in the body that expand during, like, traveling on the plane or whatever.
Yeah, the faster you move, you moving your mass faster, okay? Mm-hmm. When you do that, it requires more energy. So the sustaining of a body at speed, which is mass at speed, whatever the velocity may be, requires a significant more energy to continue to sustain itself. So therefore, your body, with a limited amount of bioenergetic mass that it has, As that mass increases, your cells have to work in overdrive more often. So in doing so, you're decreasing your overall lifespan.
Amazing. Would that also apply to like sprinters?
That applies to sprinters, like who are really fast.
Yeah.
But remember, at that speed, the measurement is probably very tiny. It does have an effect, but it's probably very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
So small it'd be difficult for human beings today with our measurement tools to actually pick up on it.
But we still have the strain of moving your body that fast with your muscular.
Yeah, your musculoskeletal movement, right? And then you have long and short twitch muscle fibers that have to work when you're a sprinter. But those are important, right? Because the movement of these things, you don't do it all day. You're sprinting. It's quick. It helps for the development and maintenance of the body too, the lubrication of the joints. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Have you seen this girl named Abby Sterner? Abby, I don't know if I'm saying her last name correct. She's from Kentucky.
Steiner.
Steiner, yeah. Have you seen her? I mean, and this is going to sound horribly racist, but she's a white girl, and she is like beating everybody.
It's not racist. It's just exactness.
Yeah. She's beating the black girls too. And I'm telling you, I haven't seen that in a long time.
That's really cool.
She is. They trained her differently as a child. They talk about the techniques they used, but it's really phenomenal.
Yeah, running is something we can all do as humans, unless you're handicapped. But
do you run? Are you a runner?
I'm a long distance guy.
Yeah, with 6'5", I would imagine.
Yeah, I got legs, so I can just let the gazelle run, let it go.
I remember when I was at Miami University, a buddy of mine, we would walk to class together all the time. He was taller than me, but not a whole lot taller than me, but he had longer legs. Man, I had to work hard to keep up with him.
Yeah, but think about it. And then he has to take in more energy. He's got more mass. He's got to keep moving it further. His cardiovascular system's different. He probably has a lower heart rate, so his anaerobic threshold's going to be different than yours. So there's...
And I was a weightlifter with short legs, so I was in trouble.
Is it tough being 4'8", Mark?
I'm 5'9".
I know. I'm giving you a hard time.
Anyway, we're going to get on a tangent here if we don't watch ourselves.
No, I know that.
So the secret sciences, all of the evils of the world would come to an end if we really pursue these secret sciences. That's incredible.
If you think about this would be great. Say, for instance, you sit a bunch of children down in a room, okay? And you put a piece of tinfoil out or something for them on a stick. Or a ping pong ball sitting in a bowl of water. And you say, all right, class, today we are going to use the power of our thoughts to move these objects. Okay? So the kids sit around and they start practicing. And then one of them gets it to move. And then the rest of the kids get really excited. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, this is possible. And then by the end of the day, by the end of the class, right, however long they're there, and this is totally hypothetical, they're all getting these objects to move just through the power of their thoughts. Now, here's the most important part that the teacher comes back with. Children, fantastic job today with moving these objects. Now, what is it that we need to learn from this lesson? When the kids raising their hand, they said, hey, my thoughts are powerful. They can move things. I have superpowers. And the teacher's like, well, in some respects, it would seem like you have superpowers, but all of you can do it, right? So you're all the same. But that's not really what it is. What we need to recognize is that what we think impacts the world around us. And you can see it here with your eyes. It's a very physical thing for you now. So the way you think about others, the way you have your thoughts, your impact on the rest of society, your friends, your family, you need to focus and have practice on controlling those things because you can actually hurt somebody.
Yeah, I think you can.
So do you see what would happen if we, in a hypothetical sense, started to train and learn about these things? Could you imagine if we started with kids and just said, hey, let me show you what's possible?
Some religious groups would immediately say you're interfacing with demons to do that. This needs to be stopped.
Perfect. Great. Good for you.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
They would.
Yeah. Well, let them do it. Let them do it. But I'll tell you, the excitement for people doing it, be like, I'll hang with the demon all day. That's what people would be saying. They'd be like, this is great.
Anyway, so the war would stop, the strife, the hunger, the financial industry would disappear.
Yeah.
All of this, a peaceful world would come about. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
There'd be no money anymore. We wouldn't use money.
Well, you and I both know. You and I both know that money won't go away for a while. Okay, people like it as a power spectrum. Accumulation of money is an accumulation of energy. And for us, because our scientific technology is so unbalanced, it lacks elements of understanding of the spirit or the creational laws and recommendations. We are not good at finding free energy that is around us. So by focusing on these things, which Billy is talking about, would maybe help our scientists unlock some mysteries that they haven't been focusing on for a long time. And then this idea of hoarding something is like, why would you hoard something when it's available everywhere? That's stupid. We don't need the financial industry. Like, the energy is cheap now. But the problem for us is that that's not the way our world is headed at this moment. We are so obsessed with technology. We're so fanatical about artificial intelligence. We're so imbalanced. We're so unknowing in the creational laws and recommendations. Go ahead, Mark.
We never look at the downside. We never take a look and see, well, okay, this is a good thing, but what is it doing that could be harmful?
Correct. You know, I ordered a new sword. I haven't ordered a sword in a long time. I don't know why I wanted it. I had an impulse, right? I saw it. I'm like, I got to get it. It's a copus blade. Do you know what that is?
No.
It was designed by the early Greeks. They got, their ideas from, other groups, but it's a really interesting design. It kind of like furls down like a talon. It's about 22 inches in length, something around there.
Sure.
Again, now I have a sword. Okay. What am I going to do with it? I can either go out and chop trees down, right? Cut branches. I can use it to do things, or I can say, this is a sword, this is a weapon. I'm going to go hurt people with it.
Right.
The consideration is that it all depends on how you want to use the technology. You can use the force of the spirit, right, with great might to damage people. It's not the right thing to do, because if you really understood it, you'd understand that you're damaging yourself at the same time. But it's like having that sword, right, that double-edged sword. You got to understand how you're going to use that tool. That's all it is. It's an energy to help your understanding, right? But you can focus that energy to do things that seem quite miraculous to people.
One of the things I was thinking about was our roads. We have so much roadkill. And it's a side effect of us not thinking things through completely.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So we kill all these animals, and it's very unnecessary.
Well, they don't need to die. Imagine if you were standing in the middle of the highway, Mark, and I hit you with my car. I got a big truck, okay? Smack, bang, Mark's dead. I'd be like, roadkill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and we just go on.
Yeah, and then we just go on, right?
Yeah.
I'll share a story. I was off-roading in a Jeep, and I was going in between these two water areas. And I knew there were animals over there. I could feel it. So I started hammering the horn, and I'm flying off-road. Like, I'm never going slow. And lo and behold, the goose wanted to go under the tire. I felt horrible. I felt horrible because I'm having the time of my life, and I'm trying to give plenty of forewarning, but the forewarning called them underneath my big, radial ATs, and like that was it. That's the end of the goose. I looked up my rear view, there's feathers flying everywhere. I felt horrible. Absolutely horrible. But for us, if you consider the amount of roadkill we have, we are just needlessly just like destroying animal life because of our road design that we have. If we invested more cash to elevate our roads above the ground, say not actually like, if you think about the surface area of a road, how big is a lane? I don't know, 10, 12 feet across, 12 feet across per lane maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, so you double that, you're on a highway, highway's 4 things wide. Imagine if they were all elevated, sitting on a single post to support. Well, now it's cool. Now you've created a shelterway. Now you have the way for animals to move underneath, right? To walk freely and not get destroyed. It's just because it all costs money. Exactly.
There's the money problem.
It's not effective. And for the petroleum industry, asphalt comes from, certain types of crude oil. So their whole thing is you need to lay these roads down in the most cost-effective way possible so that you can keep buying more of this asphalt from us.
Yeah. And so you can kill more animals.
Yeah, or get to work on time, right?
Well, and now we have billionaires, and yet hundreds of thousands of people living in our streets and our cities are homeless.
Most of the people that are billionaires are not cash rich, Mark.
So it's like land or something.
Yeah, they're billionaires because of land or stock wealth, but not actually cash rich. Mm-hmm. And people are homeless in the streets and all these other elements because of the way we've designed society with our perverse incentives and really shitty policy and laws and all those other elements and our lack of valuing humans, right, in their own dignity.
Exactly.
It's not just billionaires, Mark. You know, if I was sitting here as a billionaire, you'd be like, am I a bad guy because I've amassed a bunch of material wealth? No.
Well, I don't really think of them as bad guys, but it's like we just are not thinking things through, or we're not stopping to fix things. We just kind of go on in this very destructive lifestyle.
Yeah, people pave their path and they're just not looking backwards. They're not looking in the rear view.
But think about it. If suddenly there were no more wars, no more strife, no materials of war needed, no hunger, no unscrupulous business makers.
What a great word, unscrupulous.
Yeah. So we could do this.
Do you think people would be bored, Mark? They'd be like, I miss the chaos.
Some might.
Yeah, you bet they would.
Some might.
People don't want to let that go. Mark, people work their entire lives to amass material wealth and power. Their entire lives. And then you say, hey, there's something worth more than that. They're like, nah, I've worked my entire life for this. I'll tell you what the value is. I can put $1 value on that value, right, of what my time is. It's going to be generations. Generations.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, without a doubt. I do not doubt that at all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Think about how many people attribute their material wealth and success to God. Millions. Millions do. Yeah.
Well, how does this fit in with our churches now with Lear jets so they can fly around the earth quickly and
do you not see
giant mansions and all that?
Why does the pastor need a Ferrari? Why does the pastor need a G5 jet? The fuel bill is $5,500, if not more. Why does he need that? He doesn't.
I know.
Scamming. Small scams, right? This is small scams. And the Pope's got the big one. He's got the long con. But these other small ones are like, we got it.
The Pope is the richest guy around, is what you're saying.
Oh, he's more than that. He's the most powerful person on the face of the planet. Did you ever read a book called God's Bankers?
No, but it sounds good.
Worth reading. Reading about the Vatican, the Vatican financial system, their independent bank that they have, their funding for Mussolini and the Nazis and everything else, and the gold stores that they had because of everything they took from the Jews and whatnot. You should read the book. It's quite remarkable.
So these people like the Pope and these other some of them are very rich and powerful people. They're striving.
Yeah, they're striving for material wealth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is striving for material wealth, I would say, is not our main goal.
No. Mark, deep down inside of you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The spirit of Mark. Does it care how big your bank account is?
Well, it's interesting because, if you look at yourself, what do you care about the most? Most of the things you care about the most, you can't put a price tag on.
You can't. I can't put a price tag on my wisdom. I can't do it on my learning. Every time I burn my damn hand, I take it as a gift. I'm happy to screw up. I do it all the time. I'm happy to go through the pain. It's a function of my life. My life is a gift. And I don't care about the dollar value. It's everything else because when I get to learn these things, Mark, my spirit increases in its resonance, its maximum energy. It continues to grow, okay? And then I get to live and act as an example and meet friends, family, acquaintances, strangers with the most amount of humility because I start to understand these things. Because I have that experience. I have that wisdom. That's the stuff I take with me. That's the stuff that goes past the grave. That's the thing that keeps the cosmos turning. It's not cash. Cash does not keep the sun running. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So these higher level beings, these extraterrestrials, they all get to the point where they don't use money, right?
Yeah, and some of them probably sooner than others, but I would say that for us in our difficult position, we are going to get to it late because we're obsessed with the cash. The cash is tied into our religions. When you combine those things, you know, when church and state are married like that, that's bad. Why do you think the founding fathers were like, no church and state, separate those things? And then we're like, we should bring them together. And it's like, no, separate them. It's like, nobody listened, right? Pay attention. There's a reason for this. They saw what happened in the United Kingdom, right? With kings and queens and royal lineage and where the wealth gets amassed, right? And then the power and the policy and oppression happens because a specific group gets to then make decisions because they have the material wealth. That's the one thing they wanted to stop right there. And again, what do? Gave it right back. Our politicians are these new kings, right?
So I wonder, this is related to this concept of striving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these powers that work against the striving, various types of multifarious powers that work against the striving. Like, for instance, you and I can strive to learn the spiritual teachings, or we could strive for money or for some other aspect of things.
Right. But because
they're not, you know, you're not necessarily stopped from striving for money, but it seems like the best things are not involved. Striving isn't for money.
No. Here's what I found, Mark.
Go ahead.
I'm not poor. Okay, I'm not terribly poor by any means. Okay, but my focus has not been about money. It never has been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. When I was younger, I was ignorant. I was ignorant of the fact that there was it's not the value for me was not, it was like I said, it was all material wealth. It wasn't, and I realized that. Hard stop. Mm-hmm. My goal was to do something that is in the best interest of people, for people. Money comes, or animals, or the planet.
The earth.
Yes, correct, right? The universe. Those cash, money, energy comes to you as a secondary or tertiary benefit of doing these things. And for me, I have large ambitions. Large ambitions require large amounts of energy. So I found that the harder I pushed, the more I did, the more I achieved, the more that energy that comes with it. It follows it. Don't let that be the leading thing in your life, right? Any sort of resource you'll need to get what you want to get done that is important to you will come to you. But don't make it lead with the cash.
So people that live in order to get the cash sometimes become miserable.
Of course, right? They always become miserable. You can interview all of them, and they will have a hard time. I would say the vast majority, because I don't want to be too absolute here, but the vast majority, their value system may disgust you. You won't like how they see the world. You won't like their decision making. You won't, and for them, they probably will be unhappy with some respects. And like, why do they buy so much stuff? Because they're filling holes. They're trying to fill the emptiness they have internally.
Okay.
Buy more, do this, invest in that, get this, speculate here, do that. Like all these things are always just trying to amass more. And then their identity gets wrapped up in stuff, gets wrapped up in dollars and stuff. And when those things evaporate, because they're vapid, because they're not real, what are they left with? Nothing. And then they crash. They have an absolute crash. Their mental states are so tied up. Their identity was something that isn't them, that if there's a market downturn, why do you think so many people go to suicide? Why do you think depression rates skyrocket? Because we have associated so heavily with the material world. We lack a balance with this thing that is only here to be a transient teaching. That's it. Nothing else.
So if we're going to strive for something, we should strive for things that are good, intrinsic value. Now that's a little harder to define sometimes.
It's almost like it doesn't need definition though, because you know You know,
Yeah, I think
you
you
know
do.
what feels good. You know
Yes.
what feels right. You know it through the development. You know it deep down in your bones if you pay attention to it, Mark.
Right.
It's not for someone, and Mark, I can't sit here and tell you what you need to value internally. I can't do it. It'll be impossible. I'll never be able to do so.
But
You have to discover it.
we have to be able to make the decision to expend the effort. in
Correct.
strategy.
Because you
We
have
do make a sacrifice, right?
yeah, it's not a sacrifice. It's not, you're not sacrificing.
It's a wrong word.
You're trading, right? It's giving and taking that is occurring. It's this, it has to go back and forth, right? It's this law of opposites, right? To maintain an equilibrium, you have to do these things. So as you're bringing in, you also have to give something out, right? As you take in food, you have to eliminate space, stuff in your body to create more space. It's this cycle of back and forth, but you have to make the choice to direct your energy towards that. Because there's many things you can direct your energy towards. The question is, what is going to be most purposeful for you to direct that energy?
So when you think of it that way, it's easier to put forth the striving. I think a lot of people don't like striving or have a hard time with it because they don't want to go through that pain. There's some painful process, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in striving.
It needs to be.
It
If you don't feel the pain, emotional, physical, intellectual,
Mhm.
how do you know? If you were just numb to everything, how are you supposed to know how are you supposed to feel life, right?
Now, one thing I've also noticed, I'm interested to hear your take on this. If you don't make the quote unquote sacrifice, which is not the right word,
It's okay. You can go with it.
and if you're not willing to strive, you will start to feel, I think, grief and sorrow eventually.
Uh-huh.
Because you're made to strive whether you like it or not, right?
Whether you like it or not. And that grief, that sorrow, you're feeling an impetus. This is what you asked for. Your lack of striving has given you exactly this feeling.
Yes, it's exactly right.
No matter what, life pushes you forward to evolve. You cannot escape it. It is just brazen regulation of motion and striving, this universe and creation we live in. It pushes constantly. Don't fight it. Flow with it.
Yeah. I wish I'd have known this when I was 10.
Mark, welcome back. The audio is so good now. You're so clear. Welcome.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it bad before?
Oh, you know what? It wasn't great.
Okay.
But why is Mark? Why do you wish you knew it at 10?
Because I've wasted a lot of time.
Have you?
I think I could, if I'd have known that striving is going to pay off always. I think the only way we can go bad with striving is if we get out of the neutral positive balance.
That's right.
Then we can, become angry or frustrated or depressed or whatever. Because we're not making the goals or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Do you know the value of striving now, Mark? I'm asking you.
I'm learning it.
Great.
I'm
Perfect.
learning it.
You're starting to see it. And guess what? You just have to learn it faster. That's the thing for you now. You didn't learn it at 10, so guess what, Mark? You got to learn it right now, buddy. There's nothing you can do about it. You're in cycle. You're in flow. It's going. There's no stopping it.
It's interesting. I had a great relationship with my father, and he was a great guy. But he was always of the mind like, oh, Mark, you don't want to do this work that I'm doing. This is really hard work. And, you don't. So he shielded me in sometimes from some aspects of that.
For him, I don't know. What's your dad's name?
Wayne.
Okay, Wayne. Wayne wanted what's best for his son. Now, for Wayne,
Exactly.
Wayne knew that he didn't typically enjoy what he was doing, but Wayne felt that he was stuck there. And so Wayne, wanting the best interest for Mark, was like, Mark, I don't want you to do this. Now, Mark, you could see it as him like stopping your ability to strive, but in his sense, he was probably feeling like he was giving you the best foundation for you to go strive.
Because he was going to have me strive for something even higher.
That's correct, man. How fucking cool that your dad wanted that for you.
He did.
How cool. That is amazing. That is so amazing to me.
But I think even the little things, you know, like cleaning the floor,
Sure.
is part of striving. And doing those little things and being, yeah. Have you ever seen people that just, I mean, let their house go poof,
Yep.
you know, all over the place,
Absolutely.
you know? And there are times when I've let parts of my house go. Like, like I got 6 cats, you know, and they sleep in the garage. And I tell you, you cannot have one day where you miss kitty litter.
Nope. It's got to be
Not
managed.
one. It's got to be every day.
It's got to be
man.
managed.
You got to do it, man. You got to do it. So anyway, there are circumstances which work against the striving. You know, there's
Like
a
what?
negative.
Nothing.
You know,
Let me.
he
Can I?
talked-
Can I share something?
well, here's how he talked in general terms.
Okay. Go ahead.
He said, there are circumstances which work against the striving. Striving is hard to gratify because there are various things that work against the striving. There must always be 2 poles, a plus and a minus.
Uh-huh.
This is a creational law, a pro and a con, a negative and a positive. So can you talk about the negative and positive?
Yeah, you're talking about the law of opposites or law of contrariness. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like a wave. Waves have peaks and troughs, correct? And in the
Right.
middle of them is the equilibrium, essentially sea level.
Mm-hmm.
The top above that is the positive, below is the negative. But as a whole, they're required to be there. There would be no energy for the positive top, the peak of the wave, if there was not a significant trough. For instance, when you see a tsunami, okay, a tsunami recedes a massive amount of the coastline water into its trough so that it can elevate and have great power, right, in the positive
Mhm.
peak, which comes and washes across the land. Now, everything we do lives within this oppositeness. Okay? I am putting positive pressure down on this chair. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the surface of the chair is holding me up. Right? There's a negative. It's a stopping force. It's a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm putting pressure down with my movement right now. But again, it allows me to sit here. It allows me to exist. I have a positive projection of me as Alexander. This is my body. You see my physical vessel. Its maximum sits here. And so anything outside of this is going to be the negative, right? So anything around me, this negative defines the shape of who I am as Alexander. Or a magnet. Magnets are required to have these poles, okay? Positive and negative. It allows for the flow of electromagnetic energy and many other elements that allow us to exist and thrive and allow the universe to actually function. The contrariness of life is a requirement, okay? In order to see the world through that positive negative flux back and forth is a massive leg up in your ability to evolve. It is huge. When you begin to see it and you realize that the negatives aren't there to harm you, but they're there to allow the positive to be there and equalize those things. You don't treat them as like negative being bad, which is just a law that exists, right? There has to be a negative pole. What you do is you start to use that as your learning material. So anytime you're faced with something that is counter to you, that is contra to what you are doing, your goal is to equalize that energy and then instantiate more positive energy from that and strive and push forward. But you cannot have the striving if there's not a positive negative impulse that is occurring, right? If those things aren't there and you can't work with them in balance. Having both of those things moving in flux creates the motion. And that motion allows us as physical vessels to move and strive and evolve.
So an example of something negative related to striving would be fatigue.
Correct?
So that's kind of the sacrifice we make.
Yeah, right. So you try really hard and then your body becomes fatigued.
Right.
So you must rest.
Yeah.
But it's a consequence of doing the work.
And you have to let yourself rest too, right?
Right, because you're not
Because
your physical body is not infinite.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll be back in a couple minutes, guys.
Sounds good.
Wow, what a first hour. Flew by.
Flying.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. You know, I enjoy talking to you, Mark. I'm glad we've befriended each other.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're a very interesting energy.
Yeah.
The two interaction is really kind of interesting.
Oh my goodness. You had shared some elements here from The Way to Live. Great book, right? Die Art zu
right.
Leben. And for context of those people listening who are first-time listeners, Die Art zu Leben was written by Billy Edward Meier. It's one of his, their piece of many written works that he has done. It talks about the way to live, elements, which good ways to think, how to act and hold yourself amongst others, all those other elements, understanding your striving, your internal progress, right? And also learning a little bit more about those creational laws and recommendations. And Mark, you had shared a page that you wanted to go over. It's page 104. Is that correct?
Let me check here. 104 to 110 is what I kind of strive to.
I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to take a guess here, right? On what you want to talk about. Can I read a line?
You can read any line you like.
Okay. However, this is not abnormal. Rather, it is truthfully in accord with the natural law because, and here we go, where there is no resistance, there is no effort for the progress. Therefore, it has to be in accord with the natural law that an opposite pole is positioned against the striving, based on the teaching of the creational law that there must always be two poles, a plus and a minus, a pro and a con, a negative and a positive. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Page 104.
That's 104. That's way back in 104.
Yeah, way back in 104. I remember those days. I remember when I was back in 104.
So striving is not just dropped into your lap.
No, it's not. And here, the cool part about that, we talked about the law of contrariness, right? The law of poles, right? Opposites.
Mm-hmm.
When you are going about life, you don't know everything. Okay, so you're testing, you're acting, you're taking action upon things. But when you act, you also can commit errors, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this line here. It's towards the bottom of the paragraph. It says, therefore, and on page 104, therefore, errors must inevitably be made so that they can be recognized and resolved, whereby only then can an error-free success finally crystallize. You don't know how to become successful in your striving. You don't know how to achieve. You don't know how to grow unless you make the mistakes and then learn how to not make them again. But by recognizing them gives you the capacity to do more. It gives you the capacity to strive further. And like I said, it is that learning material. It is that crystallization of that wisdom itself within you, Mark.
And it seems that if you're not willing to make the effort to strive, you're going to pay a price.
Yeah, you're going to pay.
Yeah, you're going to pay.
You're going to pay in ignorance.
Yeah, you're going to pay in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're going to be paying in more ways than you got in your wallet. I'll tell you that. You won't be able to take out enough life credit cards to pay.
So it's striving. It's like a diligent impulse, right?
Yeah,
that keeps coming.
Yeah, you just keep going, right? You just keep pushing the ball forward, right? Just keep going. You know where the path is. Just keep pushing. Ball's going to be heavy. It's going to want to stop. It's going to want that negative. It's always going to have its foot on the brake. But guess what? You just keep pushing. You keep going. You're going to learn something. You're definitely going to get a hell of a lot stronger mentally, physically, emotionally. Just keep pushing the ball.
That's a great analogy of putting the brake on in a car. That's what the force against the striving is. This damn force is putting the brake on, and you're trying to push the car. It's
a great metaphor, Mark. Mark, do you drive around with your foot on the gas and brake at the same time?
No, but people do.
Okay, now that's not good. It's not good for the engine. It's not good for your gas mileage.
Not good for the brakes either.
Not good for the brakes. You're going to have to maintenance more. You're going to wear yourself down more because you're improperly understanding the negative. You're using them both at the same time rather than saying, I only need to arrest the momentum to learn that I have to stop when I come to a light. I have to slow down when I'm taking a corner. That's what it's there for.
That's a great point you make there.
You made it, Mark. I didn't make it.
I didn't make it.
Well, maybe I did. I don't know what the hell.
People live their life with foot on the brake and foot on the gas at the same time.
Yeah, that's lunacy. Just hammer down on the gas. Just go.
It makes everything work harder, right?
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You're going to wear your system down faster. You're
So,
slow.
okay, let's look at this in terms of, for example, a person that's addicted to drugs.
Okay.
They're not willing to strive, so they're going to go out and get high, right?
Sure.
They're
It's
going to
easy
get
to get
buzzed,
high.
and they're just laying there for all these hours and hours and hours, and things don't get done. And by the time he wakes up and realizes, holy shit, I've been here for 10 hours, and I got all this work piled up at home, right?
I better go take another hit. I'm not getting back to that work. You know? Yeah. That's what it
That's
is.
the way they think.
Avoidance, man. Yeah.
That's the way the addict thinks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to get high, and then for some reason it's going to go away, right?
Sure.
All this.
And it doesn't go away. I've had friends that were addicts. I've had friends die because of drugs like that. It doesn't go away. It's more damaging, right? Just always keeping the brake on like that and avoiding life, disassociating from it. It is just a ripple effect for bad occurrences, right? It is not going to be conducive. And you're just going to have to repeat all over again what you just did. You got to learn. So you're going to reincarnate, come back down, start the process. Okay, and figure it out. I got to essentially go back to the same stage I started at and try and relearn again.
Yeah, yeah. What's the TV show, The Big Bang? Have you ever heard that or watched that show?
Sure.
Who's the lady? Is it her name Penny?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask, but she was one of the highest paid actresses, right, for a while.
Is that right?
Yes.
Anyway, her character would put tape over the check engine light when it would come on.
That's so funny.
That's the same kind of thing.
That's so funny.
Do you realize what you're doing?
Yeah. Do you realize what you're doing? That's putting tape over the check engine light, putting a Band-Aid on it. You're not actually solving it, right? Kaylee Kuko.
Oh yeah, that's her name. That her character would just cover up the check engine
Brilliant.
light.
Brilliant. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, see how that works. Oh, actually, don't do that.
I'll tell you how much I know how much more expensive the repair is going to be on the truck if I do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I tell my friends, like that tire is leaky. You get it in to get someone to fix that as soon as possible. If you keep letting that leak, you're going to be stuck somewhere with a big old nasty flat tire and no spare, and life is going to not be good. So part of this driving is be willing to give up whatever it is you're trying to hold back on.
Right.
Yeah.
And accept what comes at you. It's just there.
Right.
Don't fight it. Just work with it. Adjust to it.
Adjust.
Adapt. That's another creational law, right? You got a law of adaptation. You have to adapt. If you don't, you die. Pretty simple stuff, right? Systems adapt constantly. You must be in constant adaptation, which is a function of your movement, which is a function of dealing with contrariness. Like, you have to adapt.
I think there's some stuff going on with our technology now that seems not good.
What are you talking about, Mark? Please fill me in.
Well, look at what's happening with Boeing. That's an example. Even in the software world, I can't tell if we're really going forward or
not.
We're changing again. Are we going forward? Are we improving?
No, we are not. Let me a simple example. You ready for this? Super easy. We've been creating a bunch of new software, right, for a while, since early 2000s, even before that, tons of it.
Right.
Has the amount of worldwide murders decreased?
No.
Okay. Has our population decreased?
No.
Has our planetary climate thrown even more out of balance since we've been creating all this software?
It seems to be.
Okay, so simple enough. Our technology is not doing us any good at this moment.
So actually, I think you're right.
I know I'm right. I know that as an absolute. I know it at my core. That's why I created a tech company, to do the opposite of all this crap. I actually want to help people. Right?
And you're willing and want to help people.
Yeah, you got to want it.
Is your value? Here's what I want to say. That one of the problems with business right now is people don't really want to help other people. They just want to make more money.
They want to get over on people.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me more. More. I want to squeeze people dry. I want to invoice these people for more.
Take the outsourcing in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay. Is that really going to help you in the long run? Taking everything out of the country? All this work?
Nothing. That is, and I understand why you're saying this, Mark, because you are a programmer. I understand how this cuts close to home.
Right.
Now, again, programming elsewhere is still not good. You're still programming shit programs. I don't like, let's not put the tape on the check engine light.
Right.
Check the damn engine.
We're moving it to India. Ireland, I hear they're moving them to Ireland.
Guadalajara, and Mexico. Right? Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like putting the tape on the check engine light, I guess.
Do you know
but I don't...
Go ahead.
You had other stuff you wanted to cover today,
yeah,
right?
Page 108. This is just an unreal line. I have to share it with you.
This is from...
The Way to Live.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Page 108, it says, the unambiguous language of nature allows it to be clearly recognized. I can stop talking right now. Billy never had to write any more books. He could have said one line, that specific line, and if we understood the weight of it, he wouldn't have had to write a damn thing. No goblet, no didn't have to worry about no extraterrestrials, none of that stuff. If we actually understood the unambiguous language of nature, which allows it to be clearly recognizable. That's it.
Give some examples.
I would love to. Okay. I would love to. When you go to your state forest that's next to your house, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a large diversity of flora and fauna?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does it continue to exist there without human intervention?
Yeah. The only problem is we have mountain bikes and
hold on, you're cheating. Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on. Go take another hit. All right. Avoid this.
Okay.
All of that diversity, all of that flora and fauna is in its regulation. It works. It lives. It strives. It survives.
It's really astonishing.
And it doesn't hide it from you. It stands there.
Yeah.
It stands there right in front of you, and it shows you every single day, Mark. Every day. There's not one ambiguous thing about the fact that life exists directly in front of you. And you can watch every interaction if you are keen to pay attention enough.
I was thinking like the sound of a owl.
Or
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really great to hear that in the evening.
Do you know, thank you for sharing that. That brings a story to my mind. So I was meditating 5-6 days ago, maybe. And the moment my meditation finished around like 9:45, an owl lands on top of the house and starts like hooting. It was wonderful.
That's great.
It's a rare occurrence for me to hear them landing on my head and making that noise.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. That actually, it brings me great pleasure to actually think about that moment again. You
know, you want to hear something weird?
I love weird stuff.
My back porch, I had a groundhog. Back porch, I have this concrete part with chairs, and there's this one section where I put a little basket down there with a blanket for my cats. They like to sleep in there. And then underneath that basket is this little structure you could actually roll around. And there was a groundhog underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he came from, but I had to kind of nudge him a little bit with some other piece of metal I had, nudge him to get him out. And then he took off and ran back off into the woods. He may have come up there because I sometimes feed the cats up there.
Sure. But what did he do? What did he do?
He just hung out.
No. Mark, my friend, please. Deeper. You have a property, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Your property sits in nature, okay? Now nature surrounds you.
Mm-hmm.
That groundhog is adapting to the fact that you put a piece of furniture out there in nature. He doesn't have any fucking idea that it's your property. He's just there adapting to the fact that food gets fed here. He's adjusting. You are watching the unambiguous functions of nature exist directly in front of your eyes.
Right.
It's incredible. It's so amazing.
It is. That's a very, very good point. We have a lot of deer, too. A lot of deer. And I try to help those guys out, too, when I can. I like deer. We've got whitetails and blacktails deer. Have you ever seen the ones with blacktails?
I thought those were just on the West Coast, but this is new to me. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get whitetails and blacktails, and they're definitely different breeds there. There's some gigantic deer. I mean, they look like a friggin' giraffe almost when you first look at them. It's like, holy shit, what the hell is that?
Damn, Mark, your neck got long. What happened? But, that's all the Pilates.
Pilates. But go ahead. I mean, I know you had a bunch of stuff you wanted to cover.
No, I'm just
taking all the show.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'll just blab. I'm just blasting through my cold that I have in me. There's on page 112, right? And this is a compound of the two other quotes that we just had. Mm-hmm. And this was what I always find remarkable about the Meier material. Everything builds upon itself. And there's no logical contradiction at all across anything that's ever been written. You can't find that anywhere. It's astonishing. It's astonishing that a man in Switzerland can do that. It's remarkable. What a feat. But there's a quote here, page 112. It says, the human being who recognizes and who is connected to the truth no longer needs any gods and saints, masters and gurus, mendacious channelers and contactees and mediums, and so forth, because his or her recognition of his or her striving would show him or her the truth. And we talked about this. This goes full circle with our conversation with humility, with the Pope, with religions, with striving, okay? No one is above you. You don't need to look to these other people to teach you things. You don't even need to look to this material. If you just paid attention to nature and you saw these things, you would recognize it. This is just somebody bringing it back to help you remember what is already there, which is inherently obvious.
Do you think that there are human races out there that never had this teaching and still advanced as high as they could?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Whoa.
Without a doubt.
So we're kind of remedial. We need some help.
Yeah, we're like a cosmic joke sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, we are. We're such a mess. It's so stupid. Fooling around on this giant blue rock and we're killing each other. We're like, let's nuke this. I want power. I'm going to draw a line in the sand and say, this is my territory. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
You know, there's a lot of rhetoric now about nuclear war. Have you heard this France thing and Russia thing? And
of course.
France.
NATO, the pressures.
They're putting atomic bombs on fighter planes.
Yeah, there is no... Man, I could talk about this all day, but there is no good way. There's no such thing as a tactical nuke. There's no such thing as like low-yield nukes, okay? It's a nuclear device detonating radioactive material. Mm-hmm. It burns things. It creates a pressure wave and an EMP, okay? Mm-hmm. It launches terrible, terrible toxins and radioactivity into our atmosphere. Oh, and mind you, it kills off all flora and fauna. Nothing about it is tactical. Nothing to be like, I'm just going to, if I just put it over here, this will only take out 50,000 people in a small city and I'll be able to make my point. No, it is always a lose-lose scenario. Mm-hmm. It is dumb. It is absolutely dumb.
Because it goes through the atmosphere. It's going to go to
Oh, it's not just that, but then it also shakes the earth. And when you shake the earth, you throw it off its natural rotation because there's so much force that happens from these objects, right? From these man-made things. It's just the most disrespectful, spineless, weakest. Everything about it is just sickening to the core.
Now, when we were doing the nuclear testing.
Sure, what do you want to know?
I mean, there was a tremendous number of nuclear tests.
Tons. We've done over 2,200 nuclear detonations on this planet.
Dude, that's insane.
Those are just the ones on the planet, Mark. That doesn't account for upper atmospheric and interstellar detonations.
So you think we're blowing things up in space now?
Mark, I don't think. I know it for a fact.
Okay.
Here, let me give you a little. I'm going to clue you into some stuff that goes on. Okay. This is going to horrify you. Okay. Do you know what a coronal mass ejection is? A CME.
Right. Yeah.
Sun flare. Right. Big one. Really big one. Mm-hmm. Okay. That releases a radioactive signature when it does that. Right. And this big thing smashes into the earth. What have you? Now it's against international law for you to test nuclear devices upper atmosphere. Okay. Say up in space. Mm-hmm. Countries, China, others, will wait for CMEs. They will wait for solar flares to do a nuclear detonation in space for testing. Because the energy signature from the sun can help come over and actually confuse people that are taking these signature readings from the ground and from satellites that a detonation occurred. It can be obfuscated using the sun and its natural cycles. You feel that?
I see. Yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time, Mark.
So they're testing all the time, and they do it during their...
All the time. They test it underground. They test in space. They use low-yield nuclear devices in mining operations. The whole thing is disgusting. It's horrible. It's so illogical. And that ripple effect of that energy goes out and not only affects this planet, but other things in the universe. You can't just detonate a nuclear device and think, oh, that's not going to harm other stuff. It's space. There's an energy signature, a wave that goes out and smashes into things that are far more sensitive than you are. You're eradicating life at massive levels, and you are blind to it. It is so disgusting to me at my core. It's remarkable to sit here on this planet and watch us even discuss these things, that we're going to use them.
You know, one thing that I've noticed over the past 2 or 3 years is that we have a lot of people in authority that are just not thinking things through. They're not able.
They're idiots.
They're idiots. I knew. I figured you would.
They're idiots. They're legitimate idiots. They're senile. They don't care about life. They're self-absorbed. Wow. They actually don't have the conscious ability to think things through and be empathic for others in their decision making, because they're mentally unhinged, disturbed, chemically out of balance, completely rot to their core.
Wow. And
if they weren't, they would fix these things. But they're not, so they perpetuate them.
Right. Or at least try.
They don't want to try. Why would you want to try? Mark, if you can't even go through the thought pattern in your mind of doing the right thing, you haven't been designed like that. You've been in politics, you've been a leader, you've been doing these things. You live for that world, which is completely out of balance. Why would you just all of a sudden try to do something better? It'll never happen. Not a chance. Not a chance.
So are they enjoying the world out of balance?
Of course they are. They live for it. Bountiful resources, raping and pillaging of this planet and its people. All of its energy, all day long. For what? For their own self-eradication. It's lunacy at the highest order, Mark.
Is it like the people at Bohemian Grove?
If you want to get into that stuff, maybe.
Isn't that an example of the kind of people we're talking about, though?
Yeah, I'm talking about political leaders, right? And then people that have influence on politics, and then people that have influence on the military-industrial complex, and secret service groups, and the CIA, and the Men in Black, and all those other things. All of these people have their own agendas doing their own things. But in all, they don't realize that they're driving themselves to their own self-eradication. And for what? What's the point of all the power if you have no one to rule over? What happens if you kill all your peons? To what end?
Yeah, well, how does that help you?
It doesn't. It's lunacy. They don't think it all the way through. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. That's the issue with the whole thing.
It's a shame.
It's more than a shame. It's a waste. It's a waste of life. That's what it is. It's a waste.
What was it? The planet Descartes? Weren't they the ones that destroyed their planet through overpopulation?
Yeah, there was a group that did that. Billions, right? And then they go off and we got to go populate somewhere else, right? And whoa, and the Pleiadians are like, you can't come down here. Not this planet. Don't come to Earth. They got their own problems. We're going to help you go somewhere else. right? And then you have other groups that were going through their own war and turmoil, right? Another planet in our solar system, what'd they do? Cracked open the edge of a volcano and let the ocean pour in. Bang!
Yeah.
There goes that planet. There's your asteroid belt. All of
Yeah.
these things lead to the same end. We can see it here on our planet, and if we got a little telescope and we stuck it on the eyes of politicians and people, and we looked up into space, we could see the asteroid field, right? The belt. That is remnants of stupid decision making, of not thinking things through. A lack of reverence for life is right there in front of you. You see it all day long. You see
So
it.
the genetic problem of the increased
Aggression.
can be dealt with.
Yes.
There are people that are able to deal with it
Yeah, of
to a
course.
certain degree. I mean, we all have failures, but there are those that are chronic that cannot. They for some reason.
It's a chemical thing too. Not that I'm making it an excuse.
Right.
But you have certain receptors, DAT1, DRD2, that happen in the brain, serotonin, melatonin. Okay?
Mhm.
And when these things are out of whack, the body has to I gotta counterbalance that. I gotta spool up more of this stuff. I'm gonna be angry. There's aggression is triggered into these genes and these chemical responses there. Now you can manage that stuff through the power of your thoughts, through meditation. You don't have to let these things control you, but people let them control themselves. I'm not special. I got it in me, right? I'm a human being. I'm on this planet. I'm stuck into that genetic line of stuff, right? All that crap that was given. But guess what? I don't go out. I'm not slaughtering people. I'm not killing anyone. I'm not punching people's faces in when I get mad. No, I deal with it personally. I work through it. I use it as my learning material. I'm not going to let those things define who I am. I'm going to allow those things to teach me, to allow me to define myself. That's the key.
You know, there's a lot to learn here.
There's so much to learn. It's endless. Relatively.
Did you have anything from the goblet that you wanted to discuss?
No.
No, I thought you had a bunch of stuff.
I do have stuff from the goblet. I have something from Arahat Althersada, though.
Okay.
Do you want to go over that?
Yeah, we could go over that. But you also had something else over. What was it? Amfala Murado or?
Yeah, I do have elements of that, right?
Okay.
Speaking of it, but I think that for the people that are listeners, not everybody knows German. Not everybody has their hands on the book. So if we can stick to like this, right? Arahat Althersada, I think that's easy because it's in English. They get it.
Now, this is your color coding system that you have.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for those that are listening, yes. This is what my books end up looking like as I go through them.
And you cut these little pieces of paper the same size? And
yeah, these are Post-its. I buy them, right? They come in different variants. And depending on how I have them positioned, their coloring allows me to then take the information that I have there, find it, and then consolidate it in a separate notebook material. And then I have essentially this centralized repository of knowledge.
Why don't you tell us what Arahat Althersada is?
That translates to the one who watches time. Awesome. Super cool. So, as human beings evolve, they have for 40 to 60 million years, you're going through these meat suits. Okay? Uncomfortable. You squeeze your spirit into this thing so you can feel this pain and live here. Now, as you're going through it for 40 to 60 million years, you evolve, right? Your spirit becomes more wise. It amasses more of that energy, that love, right? That resonance of creation. At the end of 60 million, you transition over into this thing where you're not totally physical anymore, Mark, because you started to recognize the value in the spirit. And so now you're taking these natural steps for a body that's going to evolve for 60 to 80 billion years. That's in a half physical, half spiritual form. Okay? Long time.
There are ETs that are in this state, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
They have a half spirit body.
Yeah, I think it's like upper fifth density or something like that. Yeah.
Isn't there what is the group that they talk about that has this half physical, half spirit body?
The High Council?
Yes, 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 yes. Is that more than one planet?
Oh, it wouldn't. I wouldn't. It's a planet, but it's
It
more than
is a
that.
planet.
It's
Okay.
like a social memory complex. It's all the consciousness coming together.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit more substantial. Now,
Okay.
as you evolve further, and you've now left the physical vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
you're becoming more relatively absolutely perfect. You're working your way there after a long period of time. You get to the level of Arahat Sada. And this is like, I'd say 2 stages away from like joining back with a creation. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And in this stage is a very fine space, delicate, purely spiritual. No physical body necessary. But all of that love, all of that knowledge, all of that wisdom, all of that truth pervades in this space. And because it no longer has a physical body, it becomes timeless in a sense. You following me on this, Mark?
Yeah.
Now, because of that, you have the ability to then watch time because you're not bound by it anymore. You actually live outside of that material realm. You're in a spiritual realm. You following me? So you have the ability to watch life unfold. Arahat Sada, the one who watches time, one who resides outside of it. Okay? It's a really cool position to be in because you can learn so much. You can test an idea and see how it's going to unfold, right? Now you become this, how would I say this? This thing, this like really well-oiled, evolving machine that's striving at the rate of thought. Not at the rate of my body, but the rate of thought. You follow?
That's kind of hard to really absorb that.
I know. And that's why Billy's the only person writing because he connects at a spiritual level with Arahat Sada.
And didn't he in former lifetimes? He's been through this.
He's been through that. He was at the Batali level with this spirit called the Nokodemion. And the Nokodemion said, hey, line of 7 prophets. I'm going to take this energy. I'm going to squeeze it back down. I got to go teach the earth something. And it's not because it's just about the earth, but because of where it's positioned in the cosmos. Has a great effect on many things. So it chose to go from the spiritual level. It's the only thing to do it. And squeeze back down into this physical vessel. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so because he does that, he's already at a capacity, okay, naturally, he's not special, but a natural capacity through his own evolution to connect with that energy level and to establish contact with it, to actually pull information down from that realm. And that's where this piece of work came from.
Mm-hmm.
Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Have you read this book?
No.
Oh, Mark.
People have read bits and pieces of it to me, and it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I want to jump to something here. Page 264, line 264. Ooh, wow, low odds. We talked about this earlier. Remember the idea about the school children?
Repeat it.
The school children learning how to move objects with their mind, and then the teacher telling them, hey, by the way, did you know this has an impact just beyond the object, your thoughts? Well, let's go to this right here. What the human being thinks radiates beyond his or her own aura and also influences the environment, such as human beings, animals, and plants. Radiated evil thoughts, worries, hatred, unsatisfaction, etc., are with a boomerang-like effect, hurled away and back, in which case they inevitably strike the sender of the thoughts again with devastating gavalt. And gavalt is this like might of force. It's very strong, unfathomably strong.
So when we think of a worry or a concern or a non-balanced thought comes out, it comes back to us.
Always. Goes right up, flies real fast, edge of the universe, flies right back, smashes into you.
And we can feel that impact.
Hell yeah, you can. Do you know when you have a bunch of bad thoughts, does that make you feel good?
Never.
Definitely doesn't. What goes around comes around, right?
We also have to learn to be more neutral. At least I do, because my neutrality sometimes goes away. Like I'll be anything that you're real positive towards, like too positive.
Yeah,
The universe has a way of slapping you back.
absolutely.
I learned that the hard way.
You
more
want to
than
share?
once.
Yeah, tell me. Give me an example. What are you overly
Well,
positive on?
Oh, uh, I used to have a lot of Rottweilers. I really enjoyed those dogs, but they're chronic with their health problems,
Okay.
So you experience that. In other words, your love for these animals puts you through a lot of very difficult
Trial and
circumstances.
tribulation.
Yeah, they really should probably be split into two breeds, I think. They've screwed up the breed.
Is that the Rot and then the Weiler?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know much about dog breeds.
But, you don't? Okay. Yeah. Purebred dogs, I think, are unfortunate in that they're usually going to have. I don't think does nature. Wouldn't nature, make a more balanced thing? I mean, this is where we've come in as human beings and tweaked around with the genetics and not known what we were doing.
Not sure if we should go down this path. I
Okay.
don't know. I'm only saying this because I don't think what we would share on here regarding this about genetics and race would bode well on the air mark.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine.
People will
That's
not
fine.
receive it well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, anything that you're too positive about, I think has a way of. The universe tries to make you neutral all the time.
Well, let's take a macro example, right?
Mhm.
What are we doing? We're procreating at an unchecked rate, correct?
Right. We enjoy it.
Positive,
much.
positive. Keep popping them out, right? Bang, bang, bang,
Right.
bang, bang. What is the Earth doing?
Oh, it's having a lot of trouble.
And it's going to fight back. It needs to strike a balance.
Good point. Good one. That was a very good way to put it. That's a very good way. That's something a lot of people would understand, I think.
I hope so. What people don't like about the idea of overpopulation is being told that they shouldn't have children. Well, first of
Right.
all, that's not what we're saying. Have children. It's very important for the maintenance of the human race to have children.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just control the rate at which you have children.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Really simple.
So we probably should have a couple kids.
You don't need a ton. And you don't need to pop out octuplets to get on some TLC show. Okay? Just chill, right? And don't do too much of it, but regulate yourselves. And then what also happens, like think about how many people come together and then immediately have children. They don't know who they are. The relationship ends up failing. And then we can't support the resources for the children. Then the children are isolated. And they don't have the good learning mechanisms that are cared for in a properly determined household because those resources aren't there because the parents are split. You could even call them parents in the first place. And this happens all the time, constantly. But there's no regard for thinking about the total impact. But what did the Pope come out with and say? He yelled at the Italians because they're not having children. He said there's more dogs than children in Italy. He said that's bad. Think about this, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is to push more followers, more stuff, more take, more control, all those elements. And this man is dictating how people should procreate? That's insane. What I'm saying is people need to self-advocate for themselves and recognize that there should be a limit on how much we're just pumping into this world. We should try and regulate what we're doing. I can't overstuff my pantry full of stuff because it'll fall out. It'll topple over on me when I'm going to look for food to eat. It'll drain my wallet. It's going to suck other resources dry. People will go hungry because I'm trying to amass so many resources over here. Mm-hmm. You can't keep doing more without having something else be eliminated. So strike a balance. If you continue to have more people, the law of elimination says there has to be some elimination. You are going to eliminate yourselves.
Yeah, just like the plus and the minus we were talking about earlier.
Bang. Dead nuts on, my friend.
The minus is sometimes difficult to deal with.
It is difficult to deal with. But
Yeah.
in our stance, we are wholly responsible. We have asked for this over generations and generations. We have 100% asked for all of this to occur. Everything we are dealing with today, every single one of us has asked for. Whether you see it or not, you have brought it forward. And if you are not standing on your own 2 feet, speaking, thinking for yourself, and sharing truthful information, you are exacerbating a problem that is leading to a negative and inevitable end for humankind. I'm here, and I say these things because it's a requirement, because not everybody is saying them. I'm here to remind. I am here to teach. Because if we do not do this, we will die in our ignorance. And you're seeing that right now. We are suffocating ourselves.
We have tons of foreign people coming across our border, particularly on the Texas border.
Sure. Eagle Pass, Texas.
So, and that is probably the result of some evil machinations by a guy named George Soros.
That old bastard, right, just keeps on cooking. So George Soros made his money on a thing called the Millennium Fund. Do you remember when he shorted the Deutschmark?
Explain that.
Okay, very good. So this is important. So he was leveraging money through the Bank of England, saying that the Deutschmark was going to fall in value. So he used to run a macroeconomic hedge fund that dealt with very large changes in macroeconomic trends. And one of his big things was to bet against the Deutschmark. And in doing so, he made billions of dollars over the course of 24 hours. And he used that to start his thing called the Millennium Fund. Okay, and with that, Soros has been trading and created a big financial institution out of it and has his hands in many different things over time. Do I know if Soros is in direct whatever with Mexico and driving people over the border? I don't have a damn clue. All I know is what the guy did, and he amassed a lot of material wealth, and he hangs out with people that I wouldn't hang out with.
And not only that, now we're going through a time when the dollar is losing its value, correct?
Yes. You bet it is.
The BRICS nations are making the whole situation worse, at least in terms of the dollar, right? Because they're moving away from the dollar, all these other nations.
Yeah, because the link to oil is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're shifting to where they find value with the Saudis and other groups where they can get the oil.
And this could be devastating to the U.S., right?
It should be devastating to the U.S.
Okay, explain that. Why would you say that?
We asked for all of this to happen. What do you think? You can infinitely pull from a pool and just continue to print money and then increase the value as you're printing it? It's insane.
But wasn't this done on purpose, right? I mean,
It's always done on purpose. It's always done on purpose. But guess what? The United States in its hegemony, its pure dictatorship for what it is, goes out and inflicts damage upon the entire world. It does not surprise me that people banded together and said, hey, U.S., fuck off. It does not surprise me one bit, not one iota, Mark. It actually makes sense that they would do something like this. And how ridiculous that people think that they could, in the United States, continue to push that con on forward into perpetuity in the future and expect nothing to occur.
What was the pipeline that was recently destroyed? The one that was
from Russia to Germany?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, the name is escaping me. I'll find it right now.
But that's an example of us.
Nord Stream. That's what it was.
Nord Stream. Yeah, Nord Stream. So we destroyed that. That was really the U.S.
Yeah.
That was one of Biden's big things.
Sure. Stupid.
And that
so stupid.
Totally evil. It's so destructive. I mean, did they ever stop the flow? I mean, isn't it like gas?
There's two of them, right?
Okay.
Nord 1 and 2. They still have one. It's just ridiculous. It's such a negative consequence on human life. It's petty. It's just children in a sandbox.
It's methane. Is it methane that's going into the sea now? Or some kind of gas?
Yeah, it's liquefied natural gas, is it not?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not.
We don't even know the damage that this is doing. I mean, we don't have any way to even
Yeah, it's natural gas.
measure it.
Mm-hmm.
This is very similar to when in the Texas area there where they had the oil, they were taking oil out of the Gulf, and they were afraid it was going to blow up. So they kept pouring concrete in there to stop it from blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually they made them stop the concrete and it blew up. These are the kind of things we're doing all the time, right?
All the time. There's a is it Turkey? Where is it? I don't know. Turkmenistan. I don't know. There's a did you ever see that hole in the ground? It's just burning.
No.
Yeah, so there's an area through the crust of the earth where the gas just constantly leaks out, and they were doing some drilling and testing and stuff over there in the Eastern Europe. And once this hole lit on fire, they haven't been able to put it out. It just burns constantly, 24/7.
Oh my Lord. So they have no idea the damage that
No,
they're doing.
it's terribly difficult to calculate.
Wow. So this is a gigantic hole that goes down for miles. 7, 8, 10 miles, something like that.
It depends on the type of crude oil extraction that you're doing. So when you're doing shale extraction of like fracking, it's not a straight down drill. It's down a little bit and then sideways. But there are other ones that do go deeper. It just depends on what part of the Earth strata you're trying to get into. Now, the wells which are older, the initial early producing wells, say here in the United States, 80% of them are under less than 10% capacity and they're straight down drills. And then the rest, we pretty much pull our reserves off of like fracking, which is an upper crust shale oil extraction.
Now the Earth is abiotic, isn't it? It produces its own oil.
It does. Now the Earth, it takes a long time to produce oil, and we have 664 quad something gallons. It's some massive number, okay, of oil that we currently have. But it takes a huge amount of time for those new petroleum deposits, in a sense, to build back up. And we have, I don't know, pulled like 1/10 of the oil out of the earth or something like that already. In what? 110, 150 years? You're telling me the earth, which has been around for billions, and all of its vast richness and resources, we have pulled almost 1/10 of its total oil out of it in that amount of time. The comparison is insane. It's lunacy.
And isn't it true that electric cars really won't solve the problem?
Electric cars will not solve the problem. The problem with the electric cars are the batteries. We know this.
Lithium.
Yeah, lithium's not a good thing, right? It's dangerous to mine. It's chemical, solvent heavy. It pollutes areas, waterways. It's very taxing on the earth, and it's difficult to recycle.
So electric cars are kind of a scam.
It's not that they're a scam. It's just that there's a great emission that happens before they're built. And then they're also difficult to reuse. So say, for instance, I go and buy a Tesla. I don't know this. I'm not a Tesla owner. Okay, I drive a diesel truck. All right?
Right.
If my battery starts to lose capacity over, say, 3 years, what do I got to do? I got to go get new batteries.
Yeah.
So it's practically like getting a brand new car just with replacing the battery itself. But then I have all the effects of the mining that occurs. So everything that I thought I was netting out by driving the car is then, again, lost over there with the disastrous environmental impact of actually mining the lithium itself.
So they're just trying to make money then. They know, I mean, they got to know. People that are selling the electric cars know that it's not really a benefit to the environment, right?
No, I mean, I think people feel like they're doing the right thing. Mark.
Yeah, they kind of convince themselves.
Sure, people do it all the time. People do it all the time. Does it make sense that we're trying to do something that is not directly pulling oil out of the ground? Yes, but you're just extracting something else.
Wouldn't a hybrid car be better?
Like an electro diesel?
Well, like a Prius, for example. It uses gas, but it also uses a battery.
Yeah.
The battery's charged by braking.
Yeah, that's correct. The same thing happens on the Tesla. They do that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's better. Here's a simple thing.
Okay.
Too many people buying too many damn cars. It really wouldn't be that big of a deal on planet Earth if it weren't that many people driving that many cars. That's it.
Right.
That's what it boils down to.
Right. So is it just a function of overpopulation?
It is always a function of overpopulation.
Okay.
Mark, you knew how I was going to answer that before you even asked.
Well, I think that there are probably other factors. Aren't there some other factors?
What other factor? Why does someone drive a car? Because they're there. They need transportation because the person exists. You have more of them, right?
Okay, say with this whole COVID thing, we all started working at home.
Yeah.
Some jobs can't be done from home. Some can. And there are pros and cons, of course, associated with that. But some of it's our own brainwashing because we've always done things a certain way. Right? I mean, not that overpopulation isn't a problem. It's a terrible problem. But there are ways that we can mitigate some of that we don't ever do. I mean, look at plastic.
Well, why is there so much plastic? Because there's so many people using plastic.
Right. But some of these, I mean, we could use other things, or maybe we just don't know how.
Say for instance, okay, you solve your plastic problem.
That's great.
How long is that going to take you to solve?
Good question.
Right.
I don't know.
Because by the time you have solved it, it has become useless as a solution. Because there's so many more people demanding their own striving, requiring more energy. It can't keep up. Your solutions will never be able to keep up with the rate at which people are actually coming onto this planet. That's it.
So the Plarian tell us we should reduce our birth rate
over time. Slow it down.
Slow way down.
Just relax with breeding like rabbits for a second. People love it. They love it. People like having kids because they look, it's cute. It's like a little dog and I want to dress it up. Like they say that all the time. You can see it everywhere. They're not actually viewing the impact of that life. And if you're going to have a child, you better damn well make sure you work so hard to teach that child so that it is not in ignorance, so that it actually has a positive impact. It's not a drain on society. But people don't do that.
Having children was a scary thing to me. That's why I don't have any. Too scary. Too scary.
Well, we were all children once, Mark. How scary can it be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to overpopulation.
It is the most simple root cause analysis. If we weren't on this planet and nature, your state forest outside of your house was just doing its thing, it would continue to exist without you, Mark.
Of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, the goal is to not push nature around, but work with it. Live by it. Understand its rules, its regulations, because in the long run, it'll keep you alive. It'll give you a better life. You'll have a better evolution. But if we ignore it, we will do nothing at all, but completely eradicate ourselves and the opportunity of learning on this planet right now at this time. And that's a shame.
Contact Report 390, it says there are many songbirds that are breeding near the center. They are seeing deer and other animals like squirrels that are being fed at the center. The Semyase Center is really like a little paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And they have several different kinds of owls there as well.
Gotta have them.
So
Gotta have the
we have to shoot for that.
Shoot for it, Mark. Shoot for the moon,
Thanks
buddy.
for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Much love, my friend. Thank you for having me here.
Okay. We'll catch you next time. Have a great evening.